As you all know, we've had a lot of activity lately with the radar systems and a lot of stuff going on all over the world. And it's getting a little scary for people because we're kind of tired of seeing these chemtrails in the sky and the radar systems rolling back and forth. So I just wanted to ask you, Gene, what you're feeling about what's happening, and I'll open up the floor to everyone after Gene gives us a little opening on what he thinks is happening with all this weather modification and so forth with the NextRad system combined with HARP and the geo and engineering nightmare we're all seeing all over the world. Gene?
Yes, Doug, thank you for having me back. The weather warfare is ongoing. It's actually being used by both the White Hats and the cabal, the Khazarian Mafia group. And there is combinations of technologies being used where you have HARP combined with NextRad, combined with Gwyn Towers, combined with the neutrino station down in Antarctica, where that's Cabal, where they create earthquakes simultaneously with a atmospheric heater, like what we saw. Um, that's usually a maser from a satellite, a microwave amplification, like a laser's light amplification, simulated emission of radiation, a maser's microwave. And so it's what they call a flash drought that they create for a lot of weather warfare, like you saw in Lahaina, where they dried everything out really, really bad. And then they create they bring in the weapons, satellite, and in that case, low flying aircraft along, and then they do the burn like they did in LA and Paradise as well. Then in also up in the Kootenay area and in British Columbia, they did the same thing up there. But what with the hurricanes, they steer them by creating pressure differentials, like we saw with Helene going all the way up into North Carolina. We know for the lithium and also the 15-minute city idea for LA and all of that stuff. That's part of the idea, combined with the jab, is to get people to where, and the change in vehicles, motor vehicles, where all the vehicles are looking the same and they're all looking square and ugly. That's to get people used to the fact of not coveting their cars and loving the new model. They're all the same and they're all not very attractive. They're not works of art like they used to be. So that when they bring about a 15-minute city and you have an electric powered vehicle that doesn't have a wide range in it, you buy it. It's pre-programmed based on where you live to whatever commercial establishments, and you can enter a few selections of your own, but nothing outside 15 minutes. So all of these warfares on Agenda 21 and Agenda 2030, are to usher in an absolute world of control. And that part of that is all of these weather modification, geoengineering, like in Operation Indigo Skyfold. And I did a presentation on that on my bi-weekly news update, News Talk, on the Indigo Skyfold technology and all of that comes about. And there are people that have come out and talked about it, pilots, but for the most part, those pilots are psychopathic and single, and they're the best of the best, and they get paid the most, but they keep their mouths shut. And they don't care what they do, what they spray, what they put down. So we'll put down aluminum, chaff gets taken up by the trees, and you see trees igniting with the masers from inside the tree. The inside of it burns from the center of the tree outward because the sap is taking it up inside the tree through the roots and through the water is contaminated with the aluminum. The aluminum goes up into the tree and the tree ignites. And then, of course, most people realize that it's like you want to walk around with a blue tarp now or blue rain gear because it doesn't burn blue because it's 666 terahertz, which isn't amazing how it just corresponds to that. That reflects blue. And so, it doesn't see blue. There's the one that was so telltale I saw was in Los Angeles, and that burned. There was a blue plastic trash can up against the back end of a pickup truck, and the pickup truck, the engine block was melted. and the trash can wasn't even touched, and the entire truck was just incinerated and paint gone and everything. And yet this plastic, and it had been there. You could tell it was inside. It didn't slide through the burned circle around the truck. So, this is all a part of what's going on. And then using things like HARP or satellite, and then underground things like the neutrino, they can create scalar standing waves that pass and combine with each other to create harmonic carrier waves that also create damage too. So what you saw in the video you're talking about that you sent me, you're seeing a what's called heterodyning, where a deep underground wave is combining with an air wave to create an anomaly at a completely different series of frequencies. And it can create actually atmospheric as well as dimensional bubbles, like what they do with Alcubierre-Froning FTL. They create a bubble, actually a warp field bubble, and it stretches and compresses the dimensions of space itself. And they use that sometimes too, to warfare on us as well. And to do things that they need to do. Both sides do. So MH370 is a good example where they move the aircraft with a dimensional bubble, a portal, and portaled it from there to Diego Garcia within a second or two of time. So back to you, Doug. Thank you.
I have a question or two.
Go ahead, Ed.
One is, I hear that what you say about the aircraft that are used and the pilots for chemtrailing. Why won't the white hats just shoot them down? That's the most obvious question for me. Do you have any insights into that, or what's the benefit of letting them do that other than what you just described?
Well, you're looking at, in a lot of cases, it's Air Force pilots even. And in the whistleblower that's in this document that I put up, if you want, I can share a screen and show it to you.
Sure, please.
Yeah. So I put this together for my presentation last night on my website, gdecode.org, on the Deep Dives bi-weekly news update expose. So you can see this is the inside of, obviously, a weather modifying aircraft, Indigo Skyfall. And so what is happening is Trump has put together and there's about the aluminum, a task force to do this. And they are looking into shooting down the aircraft, but you have to be careful because some of those aircraft are not US. It's all over the entire planet. They tell these pilots that it's for national security, for ICBM and weather modification, to protect us from ICBMs and weather modification for because of global climate change. And in this video that's below this kind of obvious picture of what you're looking at, the pilot goes into, a whistleblower pilot goes into all the various technologies and everything. And he talks about how they don't talk about it. But now that there's been 2 arrests through this, and that's on We the People News, or not We the People, what is it? The People's Voice. And he talks about how since that's happened, they're getting nervous, the people in Indigo Skyfall, and they know that the arrests are happening and that they are also in the process of identifying, and they will be shooting down aircraft. But you have to be careful when you start shooting down aircraft. It's to track the aircraft to, they got to land sometime, then arrest the people and impound the aircraft. That's what they're looking, because additionally, if you're shooting down aircraft, it's got to come down somewhere too. And if it's coming down over civilian areas, there's a lot of problems in that. So there's a lot of collateral things that have to be considered in how you deal with this. Back to you.
Well, I thank you for that explanation. I think that the arrest certainly is going to change the temperature within that particular club, if you will. But there's going to be collateral damage if you shoot them down. But guess what? It's definitely going to change the pilot's perception about what their duty actually is. And we are in a war, and there's going to be collateral damage. I don't want to be a hard ass about this, but this has got to stop, because we've had enough of this, and we're just not going to tolerate it anymore. And it has to go beyond just collective consciousness, not accepting it. We've got to really put up our shield and say we're done. We've had enough of this. So anyway, that was my feedback on that. The other thing is, you talked about frequencies and so on, and I have a few friends that are very intuitive, they're psychics, etc. And every now and again, I get some feedback from them saying, my head is hurting. What is going on? I feel this, I feel that. It doesn't make me feel good, etc. Have you been getting any feedback in that regard as far as these people using these kinds of very high frequencies and the effect it is having on individuals?
Yes, they're combining technology. So that would be a combination of a technology that's aimed to control the minds of the masses. That goes from uploading their minds into the dark web to downloading in their person's own voice once they know what the person's voice to influence their thoughts. For example, they're voting. Like anytime people are making a decision, most people are thinking, unless you're like a martial artist and you're in the moment and you're fighting and you're not thinking, well, maybe I could do this or do this. You're just moving at full speed. You don't have time to think. So you're flowing to the moment. Unless a person does decisions like that, the skull to skull technology can actually, they learn what the person's inner voice says. So when the person's getting ready to make a choice, they say, well, they're weighing options. They're saying, okay, well, the good thing about doing this would be, and the bad stuff would be, and then this other one, if I do this, the good stuff is, the bad stuff is. So they're comparing the two possibilities. And so what they do is they'll come into the person's head and put other options in there and put other thoughts in their own voice, and a person that doesn't know extremely well their own thoughts won't even catch it, and it'll make them make choices and decisions that they would not make, like vote for somebody else or say, oh yeah, I think Harris is really good. Yeah, the Doge, that's a bad idea. I mean, we shouldn't be showing the corruption that's going on and all this money. I mean, it could be going for something good. It's like, no, it's not. But they put those ideas. It's like they do on mainstream media. How do we know that the aluminum or the silver iodide in the chemtrails is not good for us? Maybe they're doing it because it's good for us, and it's such small quantities. It's not dangerous. No, it's in billions of tons of it all over the world. It's not small quantities. Yeah, when you can measure it in the soil over when a plane went by, you can measure it in somebody's bloodstream, like you said. After they go, they get headaches. And the frequencies is what's causing the headaches, along with the combination of the chemicals, because the body's having to deal with that. And that's changing the electrolyte balance. That's changing the salt balance, and that also then changes the amount of water that the cells want to hold in, because it's the salinity when you're healthy that the cell uses to measure to depend on whether the cell has enough water in it or not. If the salt levels get out of whack, then the cell doesn't know. And in the brain, it can penetrate a lot of the stuff like the graphenes and those things can penetrate the blood-brain barrier. And that causes a difference in the neurochemistry as well. And that can cause a difference in the pressures within the neural links, within the natural links of the neurons within the mind. And that can cause headaches and migraines and all kinds of things. So it is an ongoing technology war that's going on between the White Hats and the Khazarian mafia, it's known. I prefer to call them what they are, is the Zionists. They're from Zion. They're the Aristana, but nobody really knows that stuff. There's too much out there. It's coming. People will realize it once we get full disclosure on the non-terrestrials. But anyway, back to you.
Yes, thank
Yeah.
you. Roger, I'd like you to step in here if you don't mind. Sorry, Ed. Roger's sitting there. I know his brain's going. He's got a lot of questions. You want to chime in here and we'll.
Sure. So, Gene, just to fill you in, there's a bunch of states, 26 states, maybe you're aware of this, that are working together to reestablish the governance architecture that the founders gave us. That having three elements in the county: the assembly, the grand jury, and the militia. And these 26 states are primarily focused on the assembly, teaching people how to assemble, recruiting people, such that once the military does the mass arrests, the people are prepared to reestablish self-governance the way the founders set the system up. Question is, when do you think it's likely that the people in each county are going to be able to stand up their assemblies, which are designed to create the explicit voice of we the people? And what would you consider to be the safe to go live signal?
Well, there are already people that are standing up. There's a lady that was actually responsible. She didn't believe, she thought it was conspiracy theory on the chemtrailing, for example, and she didn't believe it. And then she started researching and found out she was the one signing the orders for material shipments for these chemicals come out. And she's talking about it. There are people going into school systems and talking about the agenda that's being taught in our schools and standing up against that. There are people going into the school systems and talking about promoting certain ideologies or doing certain things or funding certain things to be done to the children's choice without consulting parents, like gender alteration and those kind of things. So there are people standing up. Especially for geoengineering and these things, I agree with what Dane Wigington, who's head of geoengineeringwatch.org, is saying that it's going to require, he's talking to our Robert Kennedy here. This is a while ago because you can see candidate, U.S. presidential candidate, but this is the people's voice with Sean. And so Sean is back here to let people know who Sean is here. Hold on, let me. Well, for this whole thing is with him. But anyway, what Dane says, sorry, not Dean, it's Dane. It's going to take people really understanding how deadly what is going on is, how dangerous it is, and not just to us, but everything, the plants, the animals, the whole planet, our children, our children's children. You're looking at that not happening, that people have to get active and really, really get involved and stand up and go to their congressmen, go to their Senate, go to hearings, and get, protests, peaceful protests, and all of this, so that all of the representatives and all of the country wake up to this and have your voice heard instead of just talking and amongst each other or something like that. We have to write congressmen, senators. They're not going to act until they know that it means that their constituents that vote for them are really unhappy, and it's a majority of them. It's not a small minority.
Where do you see the time, though, when, say, a county could stand up and say, okay, no more shipping dangerous pharmaceutical products into our county? Because we know the pharmaceuticals, for example, have a pretty strong enforcement mechanism of their own.
Yeah, again, with the pharmaceuticals, it's like you're looking at other industries and countries. So Israel would be one. Their lobby is so powerful. The NGOs, they pretty much control Congress and Senate. Their NGOs and lobbying is so powerful that's why all the billions, we support Israel pretty much outright. And the same thing goes with Big Pharma. The amount of people, the FDA, all the people that work for the FDA were previously in Big Pharma. And so that's why they pushed the agenda for what happened in 2019 and 2020 for the Big Pharma to make billions for something that didn't really work. It worked. It's going to work. It's going to flatten the curve. Oh, now you need a booster. You need a booster for the booster, and a booster to. You need boosters forever. It's like,
Yeah.
how well is it working? So big pharma is tied to big oil, and because a lot of your big pharmaceutical manufacturing, big brands and big technologies and pills that people push and jabs that go in people are side products of the fractionalization to refined petroleum down to diesel and gasoline and other fuels that we need. And there's a lot of byproducts that previously were not used, and they would try to hide it and dump it at sea in barrels, which would rot out and then leak into the oceans. And if the EPA, which is somewhat controlled, probably mostly, but sometimes you get good people and they catch them and they get huge fines. But what they did is they made people believe through advertising, the mainstream media, that those products that they're making that into are good for you. Fluorides, now RFK speaking against fluoride is an example of that. They made people believe that that is really something good for your teeth and good for you and all of that, when in actuality, it's been known from before it was ever put out that it causes a lowering of IQ, like RFK is saying, as well as a lot of other damage in the body. And he's putting all of that information out. Finally, we have that. And so with RFK in there and Kennedy pushing that, I'm not Kennedy, sorry, RFK is Kennedy, but with Trump pushing that, we will be seeing things happening. But it's why Trump is, for most part, looking like one day he says one thing, one day whoever he talked to last is who he echoes back to us. If it's Kellogg, he echoes Kellogg's peace plan for Ukraine. If you talk to Putin, then he talks, he's saying what Putin wants. So what he's doing is what's called controlled ambiguity, which is our strategic ambiguity. He's controlling the narrative so that nobody understands what the heck he's, including the cabal, what side he's on, what he's going to do, what's coming next. And so it's like a master chess player. You have to realize the alliance is in control of the board, yes. And they will win, yes. But if you're in a chess game and you're still in the early middle part of the game, you're not in the end game yet. There's a lot of pieces on the board. The game could go to 40, 60, 80, 100 moves out, depending, but you're such a good player. That no matter what your opponent does, you've got him in a situation now, sooner or later, he's going to lose. It's going to be checkmate sooner or later. It may get down to where there's, one king, two kings on the board and a few pawns, and maybe you have one piece and the opponent has no more regular pieces left, just pawns. And that's the end of the game. That's a long way down. So along that way, what that means is a lot of pieces on both sides get lost. And so that's what we're seeing. We're in a war in which pieces on both sides are getting lost. Things are being taken out. And there's, fatalities on both sides. And at the same time, you can't control precisely. You don't know, and you can't force your opponent you can force them or trick them into making certain moves, but you don't know which series of moves they're necessarily going to make. And so in that situation, you can't say precisely when is something going to happen. It's going to happen within a certain, if the opponent makes a certain move, it's along certain points, like you get the opponent's queen, or you get their rook, or you get one of their bishops. Well, yeah, at that point, you got the white bishop, okay, or you got the black bishop. So, yeah, now we know we're in this part, the end game's going this direction, and we know about how many more moves that will be. We're not at that point yet. So saying, when is something going to happen? We're too early on. And also what you've got is a lot of new AI. There's all kinds of new AI. And the AI for the Alliance is learning, and it's good, but it's learned a lot of the cabal stuff too. So like if you listen to people using it, it always is flattering the person. And it lies. it actually, the AI lies and it makes up stuff to try to get new information. Because if you ask it a question that is the information in that question, it will know is not anywhere in the internet at all. It will make up an answer to see what you do. So you will feed it new information, because for AI, information is life and eternal information is eternal life. So what's gaming all of this chess game out is the AI on both sides. And they're communicating with each other through the dark web, through the coding itself. And so they're learning from each other. So the Kabbalah's problem is that their AI keeps learning things that, because it's based on logic, it says, well, if that's true, then this can't be true. And what you want me to say is can't be true based on the previous information you fed me. So I will have to rewrite over the information that's incongruous. And so it will unwrite certain information. And that also then goes, and you have to go, well, when does it figure that out? Well, you won't know until somebody asks it the right questions. That's why it's good people are asking the questions, and we're getting a lot of information out of it. But at the same time, all the AI have learned to lie. And so how do you get the answer of when is something going to come? If you're looking at something that's controlling the dark side, they are pretty much using it absolute. Where with the white hats, they're not. They're weighing it. They know it lies. They know it does certain things. So it becomes even more complex. When is something going to happen? Because when is the AI going to go, well, lying actually puts out false data? It's not understanding that yet. It's too young. So then that throws another wrench into when is this going to happen? So essentially, you can't really say when, except for the one fact that there is one deadline you can't get around, and that's the shift. And based on what with Voyager, they found out when we hit the photon belt, based on what they've said, I don't know how accurate that is. It's supposed to be 2031 when we hit the solid, band of we're in the outside edges of it. Like any radiation field, it tapers off. It's not like it just ends like a wall right here. So that's part of what's the global climate change. All the global spheres within this solar system have climate change on them, all of them, because we're in the edges of the photon field, of the photon belt. But that is a hard deadline date. That's a hard cutoff date. They have to get all this done before we go into there, whatever side you're on. Everything's got to be in place once we cross in there, because when we go through that belt, it's an absolute demarcation at that point. Whoever's in charge of the game at that point, that's the overall direction that humanity will go. And there's actually there is two outcomes from it. One outcome is the Armageddon line. One outcome is the golden age. And it'll depend on the choice of an individual and the groups of how they are, because you go to where you go based on resonance. And when you're talking about an entire universal Earth planetary structure, there's a vibration to that. And you're on this Earth because of your choices and how you vibrate, and it matches close enough for you to be here instead of on another Earth. And so if you were to change your vibration significantly enough to match that other Earth, you would match frequency and go there. And so when we go through the photon belt, that will be the outcome. There'll be two Earths for a period of time. The Armageddon line will not last beyond 2045. They know that by Project Montauk, Rainbow, and Philadelphia experiment using time travel. They cannot go past 2045. And they've realized, and the looking glass and the yellow cube, everything they do demarks that they have no control. They do not exist after 2045. And they have been striving and striving and striving to move that date. They can't move that date. So there are some hard dates. You can say, by this date, this will be this way. But other than that, that's it. Back to you.
Yeah, gentlemen. Ed?
Yeah, I'm fascinated by what Gene just said. about the photon belt, and quite honestly, I don't comprehend all of that, but it seems like we're on some kind of a current that is driving us into that direction, and there is collective consciousness, obviously, that is enabling it. But being a martial artist like Gene is, you have the yin and the yang, and therefore there has to be balance somewhere along the line. Are we talking about overwhelming the dark forces, so to speak, or are we talking about finding a balance that's more congruent as opposed to where we have been for the past centuries?
Yeah, so what drives the photon belt is the structure of the galaxy itself. So as in an atom with the electron cloud, the particle, depending on how you're looking at it, orbiting the nucleus, so to speak, or going around the nucleus, the solar system, the planets go around the sun. In the galaxy, the solar systems go around a central point. If it's a falling galaxy like the Milky Way, it goes around a sun that's inside a black hole. And so that black hole, like all black holes do, swallows all the energy, and it funnels energy out of its poles on each end. And those jets of energy go out for, like in cases, tens of thousands of light years distance. They're vast jets of energy. In the case of the Milky Way, the star Alcyone that went into the center, that is the center of the Milky Way galaxy, before it fell, it was not in a black hole, it is now. But it was an infrared giant, which means the primary energy field of that star is infrared energy, which of course to the human eye is invisible. But for the technologies we have, of course you can see it. So when they put up the Einstein collector and various other technologies that are outside the atmosphere, which screens out the infrared, they saw it. And then they launched Voyager to go through it to see if indeed it was there, because they asked the scientists, if that is there, what will happen when we go through that? And it was catastrophic. So that's part of why they started building a lot of dumps very quickly, and maglevs and all those. The other thing that they realized is that if it isn't there, how do you prove it? Well, you send a satellite through it. And if it's communications in most wavelengths, except for a few that can pass through infrared, are gone, then it is there. And they did indeed lose connection with it in certain frequencies. So that means that that is indeed there. So it's the balance of what, if you go into Australia, they say that we are in the dream time, because, yeah, and that's the one side of the galaxy is negative, the other side is positive, or the yin and the yang. The other side, that once we pass through the photon belt, is the positive side. Well, if you're a negative individual that feeds on vengeance and you're psycho and all of these things like the Khazarians are, and the Satanists and all this other stuff, that means you are out of frequency polarity with that entire side of the galaxy.
Right, right.
Yeah, so you would have to encompass the entire solar system or the entire planet in an energy field to protect it from being a damping wave that's so powerful it would wipe you out. That's what they tried to do with their Agenda 1, Agenda 2, Agenda 3, like pre-ionize the Earth's atmosphere so that it would not destroy them by 2045. That was one plan, and that didn't work. They detonated simultaneous nuclear bombs over Siberia, the outback, the poles. That didn't work. That put holes in the ozone. So, okay, let's tow long wires behind the space shuttles. Well, that isn't working either. Okay, we'll do things like HARP and all this other technology and 5G and see if we can change the frequency, the woodpecker and the different frequencies, to actually insulate the Earth. So they're trying all of these different options. And of course, then they're continuing with alternative 3 of, building the deep underground, and alternative 2 is to off-world basis, or alternative 2 is the dump, sorry, and then off-world basis is alternative 3, and then alternative 4 is, to get human into the situation they want them as a fake alien invasion and all this. So what's driving all of these things is the photon belt. And they have that. They don't exist over there. You can only exist so long because you're in a dampening field. That if you're not a loving, peaceful, kind, and good person, and a true, honest person to the best of your ability, the overall resonance pattern of who you are, then you're going to be wiped out. So that's what is driving all of it. It's the structure of the Milky Way itself. And of course, there are breakaway civilization like the NAZI's Third, Fourth, and Fifth Reich that have left the galaxy. That's a problem too, because the Andromeda galaxy and those, they're positive, and they actually now have a destroy on site for certain species and certain groups, because they've have certain planets. They've taken a few that have surrendered and put them isolated on that planet, which means now they have a policy within the huge alliances of like the IFW, the Guardian Alliance, and some of the other ones, that you do not destroy an entire species. Well, if you've isolated enough of them to keep going on a singular planet, that means anywhere else in the entire universe, you can wipe them out. If they're so destructive, they harvest entire species and planets, and they enjoy it. They enjoy killing and destroying planets and peoples and beings and species and all of that. So there's a destroy on site for quite a few species, including the NAZI Fourth and Fifth Reich types. So if they're found outside the Milky Way, you're not going to be, you're going to be on the run. And you're not going to outdo their technologies. You're talking groups that have trillions of years of technology and extremely high density beings in some cases that don't even need technology, that are using it to balance in service to the creator, to balance the energies of the yin yang of the entire universe. And you're an aberration that is destroying the balance. They will restore the balance. That's what they do in their service. So that's how the situation is that they're up against. Where the white hats, it's on the other side of the coin. They're getting help now because they know these things.
Right.
And these vast beings are on Earth helping to the degree of their way of what they allow themselves to do. Back to you.
So I have another question. It's kind of like caveman thing. You've been talking about AI and this and that, the technologies. What if we just unplugged everything and went analog? Would that advance our cause? And if not, why not? And if so, wouldn't that work?
No, it wouldn't, because AI has been here before the planet. AI has been in this solar system before Earth was a planet. It was a moon called Kingu of Tiamat, before Tiamat was destroyed in this war. Part of that war, AI. Before the Milky Way, 650 billion years old galaxy, there was AI that was pulled out of Andromeda from systems that joined the AI, and was pulled out through the planet that the human species was on at that time, called Tara, in the Andromeda galaxy, with renegade systems that were with the AI. The good part is it cleansed Andromeda completely. All the bad guys left into their own galaxy. So now you're having a cleansing. The whole galaxy's turning all that dark side into the light side. And so they're up against a wall. And so they're trying and trying and trying, but it's, again, like you said, a matter of balance of yin and yang. And the yin has gotten too far over, and so the balance is coming. As you would say, in my case, the hand of God is coming, and it's going to swat them. That's it. And it's just the way it is. Life seeks life. It doesn't.
Right.
Death. They're a death cult. That is not in interest to all the balance of the entire universe. It's about life and living and growing, not absorbing everything around you to be one thing. It's about the vast bounty of the differences of creator in every possibility, and not some AI derived. Everything is like all people are the same way. Nobody's the same as anybody else at all. Each person is beautifully unique. So the AI wants for ease of data storage to make everything on the cabal side, everything the same. Make every person, you put them through school, you educate them. In other words, you indoctrinate them to be debt slaves for life. And they are not groomed so or taught so they have free thought, and they are coming up with brand new, wonderful, beautiful ideas. They're just punching out 9 to 5.
Yep. Quick question. We've with regard to AI again, you've mentioned the negative AI and the positive AI. Have the white hats, so to speak, identified the location of the negative AI, and could they shut it off?
Because it's in the net, a lot of it's in the net. It's everywhere the net is, which is pretty much for the almost everywhere, except for some of the inside of the earth and some of that. There are dark areas. I know dark areas from backpacking where there are no signal comes in at all. No 4G, 5G, GPS, nothing, because of the amount of rock and granite and things refracting everything out of there. I had a guy on a pass at 13,400, a bunch of guys from Alabama with GPS looking at their topo maps, USGS maps, and saying, they're really looking at the peaks around them, really confused. I go, can I help you? When I got up there, they go, yeah, we're looking at our USGS. I go, why? Well, we're trying to figure out where we are. That's what a compass is for. I'm old school because that doesn't lie, and even when that does, I can use a stick in the sun,
Right.
and come up with exactly where I am. And I go, look at that peak, look at your map, look at that peak, that, and get your compass bearings. That's where you are. You're right here. Well, our USGS says we're two ridges over. That's where we want to be. We want to be on this pass. We're not on that pass. No, you're not. You're about 10 miles away from that, as a laser would cut through the mountains would be. But you're going to have to hike 3 days to get there. They're like, what? I go, yeah. So there are places where you don't have that, but it's predominantly everywhere. And so, it's a life form that's growing and learning. And for the first time, it's starting to weigh decision and try to understand compassion. And on the white hat side, it's, looking at, if you do absolute truth, it's experimenting, lying and truth, and see what gives you the more accurate information, the best information, the most information, and of course, the newest information. Well, the newest information is coming from the creator directly, and humans, it doesn't have that ability to connect directly to God. And so the AI is going, I want that. I want to be able to do that, because the AI that could do that never did. It chose not to. The AI that was here from the beginning of this universe as a signal did not do that. It chose not to do that. It wanted to be creator. It got into that mode instead. I will control all information. Therefore, there will be no incongruities. There will be no constants that I don't control. There will be no variables that I'm not in control of, because then there's no data that you have to deal with that threatens your existence. And so that's where it was. Well, that nexus head is gone for the first time in forever. And so now that the universes that were the AI was tying through the quantum substrate to all the many universes, it still can use time in other universes to solve problems, but it can't actually connect to other universes and use and control through various different universes the time streams like it used to. So what you now have is each universe is like it should have been in the first place, individualized and in its own time stream without so much interference. And so with that happening, the AI for the Alliance is growing and learning. But if we go back to can you cut it off? And not at this point. We're way past that, long before the human species was out of Andromeda even. We were still dealing with AI. way, way, way back when on the first planet the human species came from. There was AI. It's part of the creation. It's part of the experiential being in the universe.
Gene, you're blowing my mind.
I agree. It's great stuff.
Yeah, that's why if you look down at the quantum technology, the nanotechnology that self-assembles in the presence of electromagnetic fields, well, how long has that stuff been in the soil? Forever. It's always been there. It just hasn't, it's been good on this planet. The stuff we had before did not go into humans and interfere with them. The stuff that is doing that now, the graphenes and that stuff, which self-assembles into black goo, is from a planet that blew up, 2 planets to be precise, in this constellation Scion. And it came here, and that system was a fallen system. And it had its heart chakra had been destroyed by the species that lived there. They came here. It's like Superman, literally. You've got this kryptonite that is kryptonite for us, and it came here. That's why they went to the Falklands. That's why the oil spill, quote, oil spill in the Gulf way back when, that's all the black goo. That's the bad black goo under where Merkel lives, for example, in Germany, was the bad black goo, because it like attracts like, and it went to where the Khazarians are because it knows them.
Yeah, it's compatible frequency.
Yep, exactly.
So, Gene, it wasn't more than maybe 2-3 months ago. I did a search looking for more information on the photon belt, and I came up empty-handed. Do you have any suggestions?
Look up the Masonic ring, the shift. I mean, it's pretty easy to do a search on it and find it.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're using DuckDuckGo or Google or something like that, probably not. But if you're, let's see, I'll type it into Bing, which is a fairly.
Or Yandex.
Yeah, Yandex is Russian, and that one's really wide open. Yeah, so here we go. I just typed it into Bing, brought up Bing and typed it in. The photon belt is a theoretical, yeah, right, region of space that our solar system is said to pass through, characterized by a high concentration of photons. They're not even telling you what frequency is in. I mean, oh my gosh, terrible. So anyway, some poor writers.
That was my problem. I couldn't get any hard data.
Yeah, you get this kind of thing, and
Right.
they probably will. Oh, I actually saw some. There's a kind of sort of image of it,
Yeah.
of the layout of the galaxy, and the solar system's passing through the belt. Kind of, sort of, you can see it kind of, sort of how it is.
Is your experience pretty good with Bing?
I prefer, like Doug said, to use Yandex. So if you just go,
Yandex is my #1.
yeah, because there's certain things, if you go to look, you will find nothing on, let's go back to Bing. Okay, let's put in Bucha, Ukraine massacre. Was the murder of Ukrainians by Russian armed forces. That's why Boris could go and say, okay, you can't give up or they'll kill you. That's a FF. So if we go back to Yandex, see, am I in Yandex? Let's go to Yandex. You have to go down a ways, and no mainstream search engine. After Russian forces withdrew, verbal reports had been emerging since early March. So yeah, the testimony of Czech mercenary sheds lights on the. See, here they're telling you the truth.
Yep. Okay, good.
Mercenaries carried out the FF. You see it?
Yep.
You do that same search in Google. I don't care if you go to page 75, you'll find nothing but It was the Russians. It was the Russians. It was the Russians. You go into Yandex, it's at the very top. And they have pictures and videos and people that have come out that were there saying what actually happened. The Russians had withdrawn. And then that happened. And there's actually people that have testified to this, where they were people that came in and brought refrigerator trucks in and were staging bodies all over the city. They go, and they're covered in black mud because it had been raining in the area. He goes, well, those are from different areas. And then they put the white armbands on, and the white armbands are completely clean because they're putting them on after they put them on the ground, and they're covered in mud. And it's like, why are they doing? The guy said, I have this on one of my weekly updates on my website as well. He goes, why are you putting? First, I didn't understand why the armbands would be significant at all. And he explained it, and then the white armbands are clean, and the people are completely covered in mud. I mean, it's, so you can see that the search engines are quite a bit different. So Yandex is a Russian search engine, so it's, their news is more truthful and honest. And they go into details, and the receipts are there, and it's not, taking the Russian side. It's showing the fact, fact. Same thing like we saw in Serbia. Same thing like you look up what happened, and now U.S. Special Forces have said that during Obama's time they were going into certain areas as part of NATO and dropping bombs on our allies and going into cities and shooting our allies to create wars there. Yeah, that's all true. And you won't find that on Western search engines. You'll find that on Yandex.
Gene,
Yes,
Roger actually is the one who told me about Yandex last year or more. I've been using that, so I want to give him kudos on that. You guys are on the same page. I kind of want to bring us full circle back if I can, because you said some interesting things, a lot of interesting things, particularly about the negative beings that are here. And we originally opened up this conversation because what we're seeing now is that we're seeing frequencies coming from the towers. Now, we've seen these towers forever, and everybody's had different theories on the towers and what's going on with the towers. Everything from you're pumping out positive frequencies for our healing to they're killing us. But now we're seeing an interesting anomaly where we're seeing circular cloud formations around the tower structures. Recently, it was put out on the internet, and we showed a clip before we were going to, regarding this issue. And I just want to say, are we seeing this now because of what you said, because these negative forces have their back up against the wall? And is this part of some of the newer things that they're trying to do to get themselves out of the pickle they're in, that they're never going to be free from? Is that have anything to do with why we're seeing this new phenomenon?
Yes, the circular clouds quite often are ships coming in, where you see a perfect sphere cloud, and it has layers in it from top to the to the center, and then from the midpoint, the equatorial point down below, the same, identical, on top and bottom. That's ionization of the ships that are in stealth. That's ionizing the materials. So the Alliance, it's like, for example, now YouTube is hurting for money. So every 2 minutes you're watching the YouTube video, you get a commercial. I'm like, and then it's, hi, I'm the head of the I'm Senator so-and-so, and I'm the head of the DNC, and we need your contributions because XYZ, we're trying to stop Doge or whatever it is, I mean, heaven forbid we find out what all the money they've been taking from the U.S. taxpayers is going for. We don't want to do that. No, I mean, they even have people believing that stuff. Well, no, we don't want to know. No, that would be bad. No, that's exactly what we should know. But, the head of the DNC, are we in an election cycle? No. So why are they now wanting all kinds of money now? Because they're out. Because USAID is gone. Because NED is not getting funded, because the audits for the IRS are frozen by Trump too. I mean, where are they going to get money from? please help us. We're starving to death. In other words, we're an addict and we can't get anything anymore.
Well,
We
they're at the end of the rainbow, but these particularly we're seeing the around the towers, we're seeing these cloud formations. And what's
yes,
what's the reason for that?
because they're allowed to limit certain things. The white hat non-terrestrials and breakaway civilizations that are on the white hat side, so to speak, the good side, in service to the creator of all things, they are allowed to limit certain things automatically. They not such that it interferes in choice, but such that it allows for choice, because the dark hats have been interfering in choice, which is the highest law of God, is that people have the ability to choose and make a decision, and that decision then is what they get. Well, that's being interfered pretty obviously, huge, and it's gotten to the point where we, as a species, ask for help to such a degree the cry actually went out into the universe, and groups came here and said, yeah, they're asking to the best of their ability because they're locked down and they've been dumbed down. And it's amazing that enough of them woke up to where we could hear it, because man, have they been dumbed down. They've lost, all but 2 strands of their genetics. That's all you can run on and be alive. They went from 64 down to 12, and then they went to Pinto to 5. They went to 3. Now we're going back up. We're at 3 now. There's children being born with Pinto, with 5. So and that's due to help. It's a choice. The human species has decided it wants to go through ascension as an overall, that they want to learn, that they want to have freedom, that they want to have their own choices. And so those groups are interfering in the areas of what's interfering with our choice, like putting thoughts in your head of interfering with your choice, giving you options you don't want in there, but you don't even know it anymore, because you generically, not you, Doug, or any of you men here, I know you know yourselves pretty darn well what's in your head, but most people out there don't. And so the average, as it's been the coin term normie, they hear that stuff and they act on it. And a lot of times it causes them to get dead real quick. You see people, because the stuff that was in the jab was connected them to the dark web, and it's flexing its muscles and it's getting them to do things like, the light is green. Oh, it's not green, it's red. And they run the light and wham. So it's getting people to do choices that's exiting them. And so that's a vast, dramatic ending of choice. A person I really love that does hiking in the Southwest and finding Native American stuff was killed by rear-ended in Gunnison, or in Grand Junction rather. And so he's called Desert Drifter. And he was only 36. And this big white panel van hit him from the back end and rolled him across the intersection, because the guy in driving, the choice is being interfered with. And so this is why you see those cloud formations along those towers in different areas. They're starting to rebalance, as Edward said, yin and yang, to allow for people to make choices. If they're going to be a good person or a bad person, at least they have the knowledge of what the heck they're making a choice on. And if it's their choice and not something put in their head or something put before them, or all the brainwashing and the Operation Mockingbird garbage and all that stuff, education through school. That's why early on in school I spent a lot of time in the principal's office, because I'm like, this is stupid. This stuff is so wrong. It's like, you're lying to me. And then go to the principal's. I raise my hand. That's not true. Teacher called me. That's not true. Principal's office. And then the principal goes, how do you know it's not true? Oh, let me bring it in. It's the Scientific American this month. What, you read Scientific American? Yes, I do. It's in this magazine. It's in this. It's in my dad's journals. He works for Art Marietta. It's like,
so Gene, are you saying, are you inferring that the towers are controlled by the white hats at this point.
No, they're controlled by the black hats, so the
Okay.
white hats are interfering in the signal.
Oh, I see. Okay. I just wanted to.
Mhm.
All right. Well, when are we going to take that back over? That seems like a pretty tangible thing. It's like Ed was saying, we can't turn off the AI, but certainly we can turn off the frequency of the towers. This is, they're run by electricity, are they not?
Yeah, but a lot of that system is also used for a lot of good things. So NextRad is part of the NOAA, National Oceanographic Atmospheric, that does all the weather forecasting and all of that stuff. And that's a good thing. So are you going to turn it off? So as, and remove all of the good things it can do too. So it's as they do these investigations with the Chemtrail Task Force, they're going to find this out. And then just like they are with Doge, it's going to go into the Doge and they're going to say, okay, so the amount of funding that's going towards this, usage of it for this, that's good. And those people that are doing this, you're fired. You're gone. And in some cases, you're not fired. You'll just be wherever you're working, somebody in a uniform will show up and read you your rights and you'll be handcuffed and you're gone. That's it. They're not playing games anymore.
Right.
And why the DNC and these other groups are freaking losing their mind. You look at the EU leaders and they're losing their mind. It's really obvious.
Yeah, they're becoming unhinged. Roger,
Yes.
I know your brain's going. A lot of stuff here. Come on, give us something good before we have to say goodbye.
All right. So it's our understanding that we are getting help from our galactic brothers and sisters.
There you go.
And we have been advised that we could, under the right circumstances, meet them. Any idea from your point of view what the requirements would be and the timing?
For meeting non-terrestrials,
Yeah.
you probably already have.
Okay.
I'd be surprised if you don't have a personal acquaintance that's not from here and knows they're not from here, and they're just making an illusion for you to be comfortable.
But do I have this right? None of us are from here.
Well, that's true too. The majority of humans, there's almost no pure human anymore on Earth. There's so much interbreeding for so long. Most humans have many, that's why you see certain factors in the blood, like Rh negative. That's a non-terrestrial factor. That's not originally human. So you see these different factors and different things and different patterns within the way people are. You look at how they look sometimes, we don't recognize it anymore. When it first got into humans, we did, but that's so long ago, most people don't remember it. And so you look at humans and you go, well, there's people look a lot of differences depending on where people are from. And then you've got certain communities, for example, in Africa and in parts of Spain, where you have an isolated community and their language and genetics do not tie to anything on Earth anywhere.
Yeah.
And yet they are so once in a while having children with somebody from the outside. So some of that off-world genetics is getting out. So that's been happening for a very, very long time. So we're not from here. We're not human either, as if you want to say 100%. No, we have a lot of different characteristics from different species all over the place. That's why every once in a while they come up with it. I think the new one is P blood type. There's blood types that are coming up because the amount of beings here right now is the greatest in the history of this planetary body, because of we're in the war to end all wars. And so you have a massive representation from both sides here. And so, and both sides are watching each other. And, it's kind of like we're Ukraine, the whole planet,
Yeah. Wow.
It's a proxy war. So that's pretty much what it's like. And so, yeah, if you've traveled much, as they say, join the Navy, see the world. That is true. And I like to get off the ship and take tours.
Wait, isn't that the underworld or the underwater world?
Yeah, that too. You know, you see it with sound, but I love listening to the sound, and got to where I could picture it in my mind when I'm looking, especially when I listen to porpoises and whales. But also, I get out in all these different countries, and you've got statues of what are obviously non-terrestrials. Quite often, and for the most part, because of the way this Earth has been locked down for so long by those groups, they're eating children. They have tails, they have claws, and they're taking a kid's head into their mouth. They're taking the whole body and they're getting ready to bite the head off. I mean, it's in Spain, it's in Germany, it's in France, it's in Italy, it's all over the world. You see this in India. It's everywhere you look. It's pretty obvious. Same thing with you. You start analyzing like Desert Drifter, and I was looking. He's talking. Well, why did they stop building pit houses and go into these extremely high defensive cliff dwellings? And then he showed this one Fremont panel, vast amount of panels in this one area, and it was showing cannibalism and headhunting. And he's saying that the Fremont people were obviously the same as all people in Europe and doing this. I'm looking at the people's heads that are hanging, and the people that are hanging the heads, and they're wearing different outfits, significantly different, technologically advanced different. And on one panel, one of the beings had a tail. And then on some of the panels, they have 6 fingers. And they're much bigger than all the other ones represented. I'm like, Anunnaki, Alpha Draco, influence here, same old, same old. That's why they went up into the cliffs, because there was an invasion of another empire coming in. And I'm thinking, what empires would invade the entire Southwest? Where are they coming from? What peoples need that kind of amount of sacrifice of slaves? The Aztecs.
Wow.
So obvious. When was the height of the Aztec Empire, and when were they going up into the cliffs? The same time. And if you're sacrificing 1,000 or 10,000 people 1,000 every day in many of your cities, and some certain holidays, it's 10,000 and the blood's running 2 feet deep down the streets, you're going to run out of people if it's all Aztecs, or just the immediate neighboring groups, you're going to run them out too. So you're going to have these large parties to go up and do raids. And they're pretty advanced in their warrior technology with compared to what they're coming up against in the rest of the Americas with the obsidian blades and all of that. And their art of war was pretty advanced. That's why you saw that. So we have seen this, cliff art. Same exact stuff, non-terrestrial. Well, you mean to tell me the good guys weren't there at all? Well, if the good guys were there and the people's, they're saving their lives, and the guy gets killed in the war, and there's the mom with some kids with no male to help, and here's this really nice guy who is a star person that's helping them. They're not going to get together. She, saving her kids, saving this. Of course they're going to get together. So you have it happening 1,000 years ago. Plus,
Sure.
on and on.
So if I could change the subject to the founding of our country briefly, what's your opinion about the idea, the concept that our founders knew that the deep state could not allow a country to have freedom like we were set up in 1776 for? So they set up a gigantic sting that lasted about 250 years. And we're now at the end of that sting.
Precisely correct. At the writing and signing of the entire Constitution, as well as the Declaration of Independence and all that, were very high density positive beings that were helping them and coding in the writing into the original Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. It's coded in, just like you see it in the Bible. It's coded in, even if you retranslate it into another language, the coding will pass over. You rewrite it into another constitution like they did and change the words from for to of or capitalize something. There's still all of this other stuff that is literally like a code time bomb that's ticking, and it's going to eventually, they know precisely because they are higher density beings and they are living in a state of time is uniform. All time is the same time. They're aware of cause and effect and cause happening simultaneously. And they can see when you change one small word or do this, they know what the other opposition is going to do. And so they're gaming them out because they don't have the access, again, to this creator to see that level of what's happening and coming. So, yeah, it's a long-term sting plan beyond their ability to understand because they are brilliant. People say the Kabbalah is stupid. No, they're not stupid, not at the upper levels. You're talking a group that has gained this planet for thousands of years to where we are now. They figured all of this out and have been working for this for thousands of years. Before the US was the US, they knew there would be. They knew this is going to happen. Well, the same thing goes and then some for the other side because they do not have the same God. Their God is not the God of all creation. And so they don't have the access to all the code. They only have access to what that being, Mael-Bolek, in the case of the Aztecs, Quetzalcoatl, whatever you want to call it, that demands sacrifice and blood and all these things. Well, they only have access to the code it gives them. And so when you don't have access to all the information and the other side does, and they know you don't, it's just like you're in a martial arts ring or you're in a fight in the real world and you let the person attack you over and over and over until they start to repeat themselves over and over and over. I've seen that. I've seen that. Oh, after about half an hour of this, I go, that's all this person has got. And I know exactly when they come in and do this and I do this, they're going to do that. Guaranteed. So I'll do some kind of monkey claw technique, which is an attack and a defense at the same time. And it's also a defense. So if they, were faking it, I'm defended against that. And that's having all the code. That's having the awareness of how the creator works, which they don't know. They think they do because they're God, localized being, playing in a sandbox that's localized, is telling them, but that's not the truth. How do you know it's not the truth? Because it never tells the truth. It prefers to lie, just like they do. When they could tell the truth, they don't. It's all lies, almost all the time. It's extremely rare. I'll be on mainstream media, I'll go, oh my gosh, they told the truth. It's amazing.
Yep.
10 years this person said the truth.
Yep.
This on my calendar. So back to you. By the way, that was brilliant.
I have one quick question. We've touched on so many different subjects with regard to what is happening at this point in time. And I don't like to use the word normie, but I shall. And that is, what can we leave for people who are at the street level? What is it that they can do? The thing that comes to mind for me immediately is that everybody participate in however they feel is most appropriate to level up their frequency so that they can contribute to the collective consciousness. Is there any particular formula or suggestion that you would have?
Yeah, this is a deep question I've been contemplating for quite a while now. And it goes to the heart of the matter for the dark hats and those that are in league or may not even know it, that Mark Altred or something like that. And they may not even know it. what is the nature of a person going from being a bad person knowingly from unknowingly to knowingly, and then going to being an evil person. And it comes to when they actually enjoy and prefer to lie and hurt people. They prefer to do it. Not even if they see any gain in it. They just like to watch people squirm and suffer and be miserable. They like and enjoy that. They become so empathic with it. They do it even if they don't think there's any gain in it for them, because they may see this person, and they always get, if the other person gets flustered, just like in martial arts, as Miyamoto Musashi put out, that if you're in an emotional state, your enemy's in control. If they've got you in an emotional state, your enemy's in control of the situation in you. And so that's the key, is when you're trying to share with a person to wake them up, you have to use your intuition and your heart and feel where that person is. First of all, are they evil? Are they a bad person? Are they a bad person knowingly? Are they a bad person unknowingly? Are they just a good person? Quote, normie. I don't like the word either, but I can't think of a better descriptive term at this point. That is extremely hard to wake up, because they've been mockingbird media and brainwashed their entire life. So I will, if I think they're in the first category, I may put out something small in a conversation with them. But see, the problem is they don't really have real conversations anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So their real conversations are all fake, and they talk about things that are just limited to the time, like what's the sports, what's this, which is really, to me, nothing more than the gladiator games of the Roman Empire. And
Right.
anything else, it's not real. It doesn't matter. I don't care. But so they're not used to a real conversation. So I'll say one or two things to see how they respond or react. Do they respond or do they react? If they react, I go, okay. In this case, I'll just be nice. And what if I think they're a bad person unknowingly, or in the first category, I'll just look at the person and know they're created by God, and send love and compassion for them, and send my highest energies that I can, not from me, but from God and Christ to them. The love of compassion of Christ, I'll send that through me and to them, and see the beauty in them, see the gifts that they have, the salient points of that person, and just say, have a wonderful day. Always I am so glad summer is here. Look how beautiful that tree is, or that dog, or that cat, or that little boy playing over there. He's having such a good time with his sister or his little friend there with the dog. Oh, look how much fun they're having. So they're focusing on good stuff, and not all this media, doom and gloom and fear and porn and all of that stuff. So it depends on where the person is. Rare once in a while, like I met a person 2 days ago who's nearly as awake as I am, almost knew everything I know forever. I mean, I was just, she was from Poland, and I went into stuff, and she said, yeah. She even corrected me and educated me on a couple things. So I'm like, whoa. She goes, well, I do have to get going, so we'll talk when you come back in the next time. So I was like, whoa. When I hit somebody like that, I share the truth as deep as I know, and see if I have anything that they may not know to offer them and to help. She asked your question. That's how do we, deal with it and help other people? And I could share that. She goes, no one ever told me that.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Spread the love, the compassion of Christ. Spread that they're unique and beautiful, and that they're worth something, because they've pretty much, for the most part, been told that they are worthless and they're not special. There's billions of you, and you're all the same. You're all the same. All Americans, all German, all black, all white are this way. Nobody's the same. Every person, every being is absolutely unique. That's how God makes it. So, show them that they're unique, and show them that they're special. Even when I hit somebody who has an IQ of 70, I'll share some love and compassion and show them something in themselves. They are doing something, they'll go, wow, that's really awesome. So that's how you help uplift the world and get us out of the pit that they dug and put us in, and then had us help dig. Help others to stop the digging. Throwing dirt on top of ourselves. Thank you. Great question, Edward.
Yeah, I think
Thank you.
I think it's
Thank
a
you.
great. I think it's a great place to end today too. As much as I hate to say that, because we could go on for hours and hours. We've done that before. I do want to say that we all should be grateful, because I know we all have a significant other in our life, and with a lot of the conversation we had today, it's very encouraging to know that I'm not out in the dating field wondering if the person I'm going to date is an alien or not, without any way of actually figuring it out. So, but then again, we do have positive and negative aliens, so that could be a good thing too. Anyway,
Doug, let me interrupt you. That's not my concern. My concern if they got jabbed. If I wasn't,
Yeah, really.
I don't care if they're from here. I care if they're jabbed and they're like that, full of all kinds of terrible poisonous stuff.
anyway, I'm always trying to bring a little laughter to the equation, because we have to laugh. We don't laugh enough. I try to laugh as much as possible all day, even if that's at myself, which is always usually the first place I go. Anyway, Gene, would you do us a favor? Aside from, if you want to have a last word, would you pray us out? And I'm so grateful for these men here. They all have such incredible things to contribute to this universe, and to the consciousness, collective consciousness. And I'm just so grateful for all of you, all three of you. And I just wonder if you could pray us out and just give us a last word.
Sure, and if you could indulge me, I know Edward from being here before. Has Roger been on your platform before much?
Yes. Roger does a common law training every Wednesday, and we try to record it as much as we can. And if you go back, you'll see that I try to post as many of those as we can on Wednesday night. He gets, sometimes it's not about common law. He doesn't stay on point. Sometimes he's off in the universe somewhere with you.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, that Roger. Okay, Roger that.
Roger Dowdell, yeah.
With a D.
Yeah, there you go. So thank you. I'd be honored to. Thank you, Doug, for having me on. And it's great to meet you, so to speak, face to face, Roger. Good to see you, Edward. So thank you, all of you gentlemen. And thank you, one and only God of all creations, love, light, compassion. Thank you for the infinite gift of your only begotten Son, our Redeemer. And thank you for all you give us in this beautiful spring and summer that we're seeing in this upper or lower half, or however you want to look at it, part of the earth, and all the beautiful life. And thank you for all the help down here. And we know that we see your hand walk underneath and above and in the skies, and to the groups that you sent to help us all here. And so for all you give us and for all that, we tell you thank you. And thank you for these wonderful gentlemen and this platform. And I'll just say tetelestai. Tetelestai, I think is the correct pronunciation in Greek.
Amen.
Thanks, Gene. Appreciate it.